someone that we already know of, so we're not starting from scratch. And yeah, fun little contained Scooby-Doo romp in a haunted house.
Yeah, it definitely made it easy though if you had never seen the series to dive in, and the way that you integrated the previous storylines and just really great editing, cutting, everything.
Well, lamp shading. Sometimes I just watch it and I'm like, is this understandable to people who've never seen it? I don't know.
How many folks are just walking into this world for the first time? So you've never seen, so what did you think?
Wow.
Great.
You dived in? Yes, great. And so I also noticed that there was just this, it was refreshing to see centering of women of color in the story equally with everyone, and I was curious about also inclusive crew, what the kind of breakdown of if you had more women crew, gaffers.
Yeah. I mean, what's fun here is that Kirsch, who is our token white guy in the film, does provide a lot of the comic relief, and he was actually the only guy in the cast. Everyone else is either women or non-binary. Caitlin, who plays LaFontaine, is non-binary, as is the character. In terms of the crew, definitely not as female or queer as we like, but we definitely had 3 Jessicas, head of wardrobe, costumes, and art department. And in terms of what we wanted to do with Emily and Charlotte is actually a nod to the Bronte sisters. So we're like, hey, why don't we have Cara G, who's an Ojibwe Indigenous Canadian woman, and Gracelyn Kung play race-bent Bronte sisters? Because why not?
Fantastic.
If we can have vampires, there's no reason why they can't play those. And Elle is kind of actually a stand-in for the white feminist who would throw everyone else under the bus to get out.
Ooh, okay.
Like, she just, you understand, she just wants to live her life and go out, and she doesn't care if she has to throw everyone else.
Yeah.
And hopefully, we kind of tried to hammer that a little bit through, and a chance to give Mel as well a little romance.
Definitely, and the black girl didn't die first. That was a great line. And also, I was wondering, just in doing genre, is genre something that you've done before, kind of the campy vampire, or what was your experience?
I've actually done a serious genre show, which is kind of like in treatment for people with supernatural afflictions. And it's definitely, I feel at home in camp for sure, and I'd love to do a lot more of it. Potentially a little more, you can grow along with the characters. I think we've grown along with our audience throughout the years as well. And should we be so lucky that it continues, it would also be, okay, let's look at what's the Jessica Jones of the Carmilla world, and how can we kind of move forward as well. Also, all this to say, I love camp and I love genre, and I think we see a lot of examples of inclusive sci-fi and inclusive fantasy. Black Panther is like the macro example of that, and then Carmilla on the small level is like, let's keep doing that. Let's put ourselves at the center of the narrative.
And leaning hard to both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to do my best after Carmilla to do more series with trans characters, and especially trans women of color, and really kind of giving them the keys to the castle and helping them tell their own stories.
Fantastic. And it seems like, having worked for so long together, the cast continue to have this great chemistry. Are there any memorable stories that, inside stories you want to share with everyone on set?
There's always
so many,
stories.
Right?
I don't even know where to start, but for sure we have worked together for a long time, and I think it's fun. It's always fun to have a shorthand and know that we're gonna laugh a lot. So exciting. I wish they could be here as well.
Yeah, we have to send them a boomerang of all of you. Loving
for sure. Send us more stuff. And then there's a couple more festivals that we're going to play. Hopefully, more people can discover it as well. And then lots more things on the horizon. There's also a novelization of the series.
Great.
And we'll see what's next.
That's great. Well, I want to make sure the audience has a chance to ask your questions. You've been very excited. Does anyone have a question? Feel free to just stand up, share. Was there a lot of, there's the to be continued, things that you're curious about? Who do you want to see more of?
It's funny because in the digital version, there isn't that slide at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's just something that we wanted to put in to kind of ensure that question mark, is it?
Yes.
We'll see. And hopefully we will be able to.
Definitely. And so you're just figuring out funding-wise, or?
Well, right now we're developing the TV version. That was in development with the Canadian broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, a lot of that's above my head, and hopefully we can make something happen and keep it as unabashedly queer. I think that's the that's the hard part.
Clap for that, yeah.
We want more of that. I've kind of learned that you know, to kind of pitch the gay, I try to just really hammer home with universal. They're like, universal, yeah, inclusive, and also it's hella gay, you know? But you kind of have to push it in that way.
I mean, I think everyone's been waiting for a corset scene.
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I heard a lot of, oh, okay.
We're like, how do we do Victorian genre on a small budget? You're like, why do we do that to ourselves? But you know what? Love that sex scene.
Oh yeah,
Love the corset.
And also just having such a contained story. I mean, you're taking it from the single shot, very theatrical framing in the prior versions, and just I was really blown away by how you were able to make that move so seamlessly from that format. Before,
A couple more days and a great crew. A lot of the crew that were on since the beginning, you know, and our DP for season 3 as well. And yeah, we wanted to move. I think the dreams specifically is something we could never do in the web series because it's not her direct POV. So this was like, hey, let's have dreams, let's have Steadicam, let's have a ball, you know? Yeah. Not many ghosts, but as many as we can fit in.
I mean, I love the journalist warrior. I mean, I want more journalist warrior queer women in everything.
Absolutely.
Like, interesting.
More Lois Lanes.
Yes, definitely. Any questions out there? Yes.
Was there any difficulty taking or writing from more of a YouTube script to bringing it to more traditional movie script? Were there challenges?
I think just feature in general is a totally different, like just regarding the format for a second, like I've mostly worked in TV, whether it's hour-long or digital, so not thinking in episodes and in terms of feature structure was, for all of us, a big kind of a learning curve there. And we're like, oh no, we can't spend that much time here to talk about these things. We actually have to move faster. And in terms of the format, we definitely have to write to the format. That's why, ironically, in the show, there is a lot of tell, don't show, because she has to tell the story. And here we were able to see it through, you know, visuals, dreams, movements, lots of sounds, like the repetition of Elle's humming and whatnot. There's a big part of me that wishes we could have done more. We actually tried to get a panther, because if you don't know, Carmilla does turn into a giant black cat as a vampire. That's part of the original lore in the novella. Unfortunately, panthers are very expensive.
Your insurance would be.
But would have loved that. It would have been in one of the earlier dreams when Laura wakes up and she sees Carmilla at the foot of her bed. In the script, it is like she blinks, and then when she reopens her eyes, it is the panther crawling up. Would have been great, but it'll have to live in our minds.
Now we can imagine it, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah?
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what it was like to shoot like a period piece, I guess, on a budget.
Do yourself a favor and ask yourselves if you want to be in that much pain. Is what we did. But in all seriousness, no, we were so lucky to have Jess Clayton, who was a fantastic artist. She was our costume designer for season 3. She custom made a lot of those dresses. She ordered some from like all over the world. And not only the dresses that you see on screen, but whenever you see Dom and Elise in the mirror, we needed to have doubles of those dresses. So there was a lot of mixing and matching, and then there's body doubles as well, and how are we going to replicate something when it's specifically ordered. And I think it's focus on what the costumes can tell you, and surround yourselves with the best people that you can trust, really. But I love the black dress for Carmilla, Maddie's dress. Yeah.
Really great set design also. Yeah. I mean, that incredible consistency there. Anyone else? It's a bright light, I can't quite see you. Yeah?
If you were to do like a sequel movie, what would you like to see happen? Like your dream plot?
My personal dream would be like that, what you see at the end of that movie, road trip with Laura, Carmilla, and Maddie. That would just be so much fun, and then we could be on the road and not do a contained movie. So my dream is to like, let's be on location the whole time and just bop around, you know?
I'm looking forward to that.
That would be fun.
Let's see that.
But I think for us, the next step is not a second movie, but definitely the hour-long TV version.
That makes sense. No else? Yeah?
You mentioned the novella, but it's based off of who like first got their hands on the novella and said let's make this into a series, let's do this. How did that go about?
I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, but it is basically. It's a vlog-style retelling of Pride and Prejudice through 100 vlogs from Lizzie Bennet's perspective, which is such a fun way to kind of reimagine classics And we kind of set out to do our own vlog series. And one of the queer writers on our team, Alan, is the one who mentioned, like, hey, what's Carmilla? What about Carmilla? And we could do something, what about this? And then I was like, what is that? And then I read it and I was obsessed. So then I kind of ran with it and wanted to imagine what it would be to do the modern day version of this. How do we kind of subvert it, because it was written as a cautionary tale against the evils of lesbianism. So why don't we flip that on its head and make it like the gayest thing we've ever seen? And setting it in a dorm not only motivates the camera and like how it's going to be vlogging, but at the same time gives you like two people who hate each other at first that are forced to be in the same environment, lots of unresolved sexual tension, slow burn, all that fun stuff. And then we kind of brought on Jordan Hall, who co-created the series and wrote all of it with Ellen, and it kind of went from there. So it was a really collaborative effort from people who were very excited to do it.
Incredible. I mean, just from the college years of all the ways that we take our life struggles in college and how they land and map on top of supernatural events, but even transitions and Laura's 5-year plan chart really stuck out to me. I was reading all the different things.
Yeah.
Read more QPOC comic books.
Yeah.
That was so good.
And actually, the QPOC non-binary artist, Ensei, who did a lot of the graphics for the film as well as that 5-year plan, actually is from Malaysia, and they started doing fan art of Orphan Black and Carmilla like back in our season 2, and then they were in our art department as a PA in season 3, and then kind of moved up for the movie. So it was kind of really neat to see that dialogue between our fans and the creative team. And they really there's so many little in-jokes from the fandom and also the series that they put into it.
That was great. So in terms of your own 5-year plan of creative work, what's outside of this? I know you said the series, but what are you looking forward to making for you?
I also work in development, TV development full-time, so that's my jam. Basically, I try to insert myself places and push the gay shit forward.
Yes, we like that.
So yeah, I'd love to do more, obviously, more series. I'd like to do things along the vein of Killing Eve and
so
Dietland,
good.
and really fun, subversive shows with like, man, this is a really tough question. I gotta think about it more. But there's a couple things I'm developing on my own as well as through the company I work at, and yeah, just more fun stuff.
We want to see more, right? We want to see more of your work.
Yeah. And I'd love to see more genre shows with 2 queer female leads kind of leading the narrative, so we don't have our token side gays, and you just put them front and center, and I want them to take up all space.
And so it was just such a joy. I feel really joyful after watching this.
Yeah.
It just feels so affirming and good for our community. I think we have time for one more question. Anyone burning desire? Okay. Well, what can fans do to continue to support the project? Follow social media, send lots of adoring love notes. What can they do?
Yeah, always adoring love notes. We love those.
Yes.
And really, the best thing is to keep following what we're doing, and as well as the projects that all the actors are doing on their own. Mm-hmm. Like Caitlin has their own series. Natasha, who played Carmilla, also co-created her own comedy, so that was fun. And I think in the coming months, as there are more conventions coming up and new events and the book coming out, there's definitely going to be more like targeted pushes that we'll kind of ask you to help us with. So it's like, hey, Netflix.
Are you all going to follow all the accounts? Go to all the conferences? Yeah? Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
And
us.
can you show us how much you enjoyed this? I want to hear how much you enjoyed it. So much good. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you all throughout today, the rest of the screenings.